Hey, what's happening? YouTubers are back with a brand new action figure review. And today we're taking a look at the new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Gladiator Batman based on his appearance in the Dark Knight's Metal run. I just got this in from Amazon and I'm hyped to review this because this figure's got a strong case to be figure of the year in the DC Multiverse line. It looks that badass in my opinion. But that's enough about that. Like we always do, let's get started with the box art first. So it's your standard McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse box. And of course, you see on the side, it's from the Dark Knight's Metal run. And then also on the back is an awesome image. If you see the Joker dragon with Wonder Woman, which we did get this version of prior. I think it was in the Dark Father wave. And then we never actually got this version of Superman. I'm hoping they revisit this and do this again because the other one that came out was a little meh in my opinion. But if you're wondering who should ride the Joker dragon, this is definitely the Batman to do it. All right, that's enough about the box art. Let's go and get Batman out of the box. All right, here's Gladiator Batman out of the box. Let's take a look at his accessories first. Comes with a DC base plate like you see with all McFarlane Toys figures. Ha, y'all thought I was going to throw it. Not this time. I like to change it up. Just like all DC Multiverse figures from McFarlane Toys, he comes with a data file card. This is the same image you saw in the back of the box, just zoomed in. And on the back is the data file. Feel free to pause it if you want to go ahead and read it. It does come with one weapon accessory. It's his axe, and I do like the silver finish on the metal part of the axe, and I do like the sculpting work of the handle as well. All right, now let's take a look at the figure itself, and we'll get started with the head sculpt first. And if we take a closer look, you can see all the details on there. It looks awesome. And if we want to compare it to the source material, we'll just reference the data file card because it's right there. But you can definitely see the detail, like the paint work around his mouth to show like his scruffiness, like his beard, kind of like a shadow, I guess. But definitely a lot of attention to detail on that head sculpt. You can see the worn down armor look on his helmet. And man, this thing looks awesome. Just all the damaged parts right there. This thing looks fantastic. Then when taking a look at the rest of the figure, that same level of attention to detail and sculpting work from the head sculpt rings true throughout the rest of the figure itself. Just look at the shoulder pads. Like, you can see the bat's face real close in there. You can see the sculpting work on the wings. Like, this looks fantastic. This is a pretty damn good job in sculpting work. The only thing is, I wish there's a better way to engineer these shoulder pads instead of having it stuck on the bicep or the shoulder joint. I wish they would kind of like mold it in. But again, I can look past it because it looks dope, but I also understand there's a reason why they do this. I just would wish they'd figure out another way because sometimes you run into issues where they fall off easily, but not in this case. These feel like they're on there pretty tight. You can see the rest of his armor in his arms and the gauntlets as well. Like, this thing just has so many levels of attention to detail, and you know how sometimes people are like, oh, you can see where the budget went to, but you know, they always have brand new sculpts for most of their figures, and this one, like, they went all out. I definitely like this. You can even see like the worn down look on his chest right here for his chest armor. I do like that silver finish. It's like similar to what you saw on his axe, like that same silver finish. It looks so clean on there. But you could see like the battle damage that he's been through. Then you see the symbol of his axe. It's funny, there's two of them, but I got to check out the comic for reference. I don't know if he's got one or two axes, but let me know in the comments below if you know. Then you can see his skirt piece right here too. So this is pretty cool. When it comes to the cape, it's one of those instances like I mentioned before. You've heard me say this a lot of times. I don't like how it's brushed to one direction. I would rather a static cape pose, but this one I can kind of make it work. But I just don't like it when it's always swept to one way. I kind of want it static, but I understand what they're going for. But when it comes to the actual sculpting work of the cape, it still looks nice. Again, they're able to replicate sculpting work on their capes to emulate sort of a fabric look, almost a soft goods look, even though it's not. So kudos to them on that point. I just, again, wish it was more of a static one, but it still looks nice. And keeps going, y'all. There's more details, again, on the rest of his like legs right here. You can see the bat logo on the knees. Now, the only thing is they're using ball joints at the ankles, and you've heard me say this before. I'm fine with that because it kind of gets hidden with the boots. Same thing goes for the ball joints at the wrist. You can kind of be hidden with the gauntlets. That's fine. It's only when it's open, like on the Shazam figure, it's like bare, like you can see the ball joints. I want them to sculpt it. But here, it looks fantastic. Now, in terms of articulation, you might look at it at first glance and be like, oh, it's another bulky McFarlane Toys figure. It might lack articulation. Not quite. It has a nice range, especially in the diaphragm. I'll get to that in a little bit. But with the head sculpt, he can turn from side to side. Now, the only thing is you might have to be careful because his cowls are going to get in the way from you turning it. And now that I think about it, he kind of looks like a strife helmet, sort of. But his head can look up quite a decent amount like that and can look down like that. Again, it is going to be hindered with the cowls if you try to put it down anymore. He does have the shoulder joint and the faux butterfly joint there. The only thing is, when moving the arm up, the pads kind of hinder it. And this is what I was talking about. Like, I wish there's another way to engineer it so that doesn't happen where it wears off over time or falls out. It does have the bicep swivel, which the shoulder pad moves with it. Has double jointed elbows, which, despite all the armor, gets a solid range. And then, of course, there's a ball joint at the wrist. And here's the diaphragm joint. So the diaphragm joint is actually, on mine, it's kind of loose, but there is a nice range. You know, like, that's, for this, that's not bad. I've seen, you know, other figures before where it looks like it should go down that far, but doesn't. So that's a solid range, in my opinion. Of course, going back, you haven't heard me say this in a while. Fucking skydiving poses. There is a ball joint at the hip, so it can help it turn from side to side and then even crunch down even more. So that's pretty cool. Now, here's the thing. This one, I just realized this when I got this out of the box. He actually has a thigh cut, y'all, and that's because he's riding the Joker Dragon. So anytime there is a vehicle and a figure is supposed to go with it, it'll most likely have articulation cuts at the thigh. I'm not sure if the Keaton one will, though. But anyways, it has double jointed knees, which give it a solid range. And of course, it has the ankle articulation with the ball joint at the ankle, so it can go back and forth. It is limited going back, though, because of the boots. I don't think you can get any... Oh, yeah, there's some ankle pivot on there. And of course, it has the toe hinge. Now it's going to jump right into size comparisons. And first size comparison, here's Gladiator Batman sitting next to Gladiator Superman and the Last Night on Earth Wonder Woman. So a couple of Gladiator-looking versions of the DC Trinity. And it's visible in this one, but this is what I'm talking about in terms of proportions with McFarlane toys. The legs just look too long on here, but can't really tell on this one because dude's armored up. Next size comparison. Here he is next to more Batman figures from McFarlane Toys that, in my opinion, have some of the most detailed sculpting work on the figures. We have the Last Night on Earth Batman and the Dark Knight's Death Metal Batman. And what I was talking about, just when you look at the level of attention, detail, and sculpting work on these Batman figures, you can see the intricate patterns on there, and it just looks awesome, but I don't think they compare to Gladiator Batman. The next size comparison, here he is standing next to some Marvel Legends figures. We have the Deluxe Ulick Walmart exclusive and the Herald of Galactus Thor, which I've kit bashed with the All-Father Thor head sculpt. I kind of like this look better. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now for a randomized size comparison, but still keeping it within the McFarlane Toys brand. Here he is standing next to a couple of My Hero Academia figures. We have Deku, Not Todoroki, and Ochako. My shit in heart. Alright, so my overall thoughts on this figure is, it's awesome. And I'm not going to lie to y'all. This figure definitely has the potential to be my #1 figure of the year for the DC Multiverse line. It's that good. But what I will also say, though, is it does suffer from that heavy cape syndrome because I noticed when posing it around, it did kind of fall back a little bit because of how heavy the cape is. This is why I was saying, like, I kind of wish it was kind of a static pose one just because it leans off to one side too much, and that's because the plastic/rubber they're using for the cape is a little too heavy, but it still looks good nonetheless. But not tripping, y'all. I do think this is probably one of their best figures so far this year, and it's definitely up there as figure of the year for my opinion. Again, these lists are subjective, y'all. Don't take this as a literal word. But let me know what you think in the comments below. YouTubers, are you going to be picking this up? And like always, if you like what you see, be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching.